First thing in the morning, I get my coffee and my oatmeal. I feed my kittens. And then I take a little bit of time at the computer before I go out to feed the sheep. Just whatever, placing orders or checking emails and stuff. So today I've got a sheep pickup. So someone purchased a ewe from us, or Matilda. And so one thing I had to do this morning was I had to fill out the sales contract. We always put together a contract with just a lot of the details, and very useful to have, just to make sure there's no misunderstandings. So I just put that together and printed that out. So Matilda's new family's coming to pick her up at 11, so now I have to go out there and pull her out from the flock, and I'll probably put someone else with her. Probably like Mabel or something, and put them in a pen out on the yard somewhere so that when the people come to pick her up, they'll be easy to get at. If I let her out, it'll be really hard to get her back into the barn when you get to get her in. It's going to be a hard one. But I really like where she's going. So the farm she's going to go to, I'll put a link in this video in case anybody wants to see how she's doing and stuff. But they're a really good farm, so it'll be good. I think I'm going to do Mrs. Hughes and Matilda, and I'm just going to set them up right over here where the grass is tall. So I'm going to set up, floor hog panels and get them in there. The reason I want to do Mrs. Hughes is because I need to finish ruining her. She's got her coat on and it's going to get all matted, so I'm going to do that. And might as well just get her separated out. So I'm going to do that right now. Girl. Morning, sweetie. Are you there with your mom? That's actually Mrs. Hughes right there that I was talking about. Putting out together. That's her mother. It's so funny how they still hang together. You're gonna go to a new farm today? Pretty girl. Come on, let's go. I'm just gonna grab her. She usually comes right up to me. Put her in the pen. junk. Can't use it. Okay, so they're ready to go. Nicely penned. So now I need to feed the rest of the flock. And then I'll secure this a little bit better. And then just wait for their new family to get here. Or her new family, I mean. Great, yeah.
I was a little panicky when I was putting the crate in the car, and I was like, oh no, it's too small.
That'll work great. I'm going to throw a little bit of hay in there.
Okay. Perfect.
Just to give her something to munch on while she's traveling. Okay, now we're going to do the paperwork. So it's Matilda, 2020, registered, so I will be transferring her registration to you. That's her ear tag. She had her CDT in April, so that's, you know, anytime in the spring.
Perfect.
And like I said, we just dewormed her, so I wouldn't worm her again.
Perfect.
So, you want to sign my version. So what's the drive now? You're going back to the farm, right?
Yep.
Which is what? How long is that?
3.5-ish hours. So
So you work on the farm. You go there like on weekends and stuff. You're not there.
I'm usually there like a week to a week and a half out of every month, and I'm in charge of things when I'm there, and then my sister and father take care of things when I'm not there. So
Yeah, I highly recommend going onto their Instagram feed. It is very entertaining. The animals, and they do a lot of videos and stuff, and it's really awesome.
yes,
So
or at Jolaine Farms.
yeah, I'll put a link in the video. So okay,
That's for you.
thank you very much. And let's go ahead and do the. Do you have halters?
Not with me.
Oh, I mean, you have halters.
But
at
yes,
home.
we
I
have
was gonna
halters
say,
at
'cause you
home,
could
yes.
So we don't need it really. I mean, I'm just gonna leave her over there, but
Okay.
if you wanted it, she is definitely trained. When I brought her in here this morning, she did not squawk like with the lambs and stuff, and the lambs aren't upset. So I'm imagining as long as she's got company, she's gonna transition really well. You're gonna get her in the leg. I'm gonna get her in the chest head first. Watch the feet.
Good girl.
Oh,
Perfect fit.
great. I'm very comfortable.
Good.
Hi, sweetie.
You're going on an adventure.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much.
Thank
I'm so
you.
happy that she's going to you.
We are very excited. Maybe next year we'll have, I don't know, maybe we'll breed. I don't know. We haven't decided yet.
It's a big step.
It is. So this year, next year, sometime soon.
Great. All right. Well, you guys hit the road. Get her.
Thank
Get her
you.
home. There she goes. Okay, that's that. So, of course, I forgot to make sure she took her copy of the contract, so I'll have to just mail that to her. And I just have to clear up everything, put everything away. And then she's gonna let me know when they get home. dress. Put that on, Silva. Okay, so it was a weird day. Just knowing that Matilda wasn't out there, but I'm feeling better. I think I'm gonna be okay about it. So there's still stuff to be done. The physical movement of the sheep is complete, and I actually got a picture of Matilda in her new pasture, which is really nice. But I still have a bunch of stuff I have to do. So I have to update my flock spreadsheet to indicate that Matilda has been sold. I have to mail Mindy the contract because I forgot to give it to her. I have to mail in the registration transfer paperwork, so she's registered, Matilda. So I just have to fill out some information on the back of the form and send it into the registry. I've got to deposit the check, file the contract, and then the process is complete. So that's what it's like when you sell a sheep, and it's part of the business, but it's really hard. But after a couple days, it kind of, you think about the sheep, and that makes you happy. Stand nice for me. In this next video, I had an opportunity to have a Zoom call with 3 of the Fine Fleece Shetland Sheep Association leaders that were really elemental in the importation of semen from 4 rams out of the UK. So we have a really interesting conversation. I'm really excited. I think you guys are going to really like it. So I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but our farm is going to be doing artificial insemination this fall using 3 of the rams that were available based, from all the work that these guys did. So this is the first in a series of videos that I want to provide you guys so you can kind of understand what goes into the whole process. And I'm going to tell you what I learned a lot just from this interview that you're going to be watching here, just what's involved. And it's amazing, the stuff that they did. So one thing I wanted to do was just let you know that they talk a lot as Shetland breeders about things that maybe, a typical civilian isn't familiar with. So when they do, I'm going to try and give you some graphics to give you a sense of what it's about. And then I will also provide links in the description. But there's just a couple things that I wanted to just say before, and maybe some of you know this, but they're going to talk about scrapie. So scrapie is I don't know a lot about it, but it's a condition that sheep have that's, deadly, very dangerous. And there was a big problem of it in the UK, and so they're trying to eradicate it. So that's why it was, first criteria was to make sure that their rams had the genetic resistance to it, or the highest genetic resistance possible. I'll probably have to do another video just on that topic because I don't know a lot about it and I'd like to learn more anyway. So, the Jefferson, I think Garrett makes reference to Jefferson. There's a festival in Jefferson, Wisconsin, and it's a big show for the Midwest, for the Shetland sheep breeders. There's like a show just Shetlands. So what they try to do, the breed organization, is they try to bring over judges from the UK so that we can get their insight, because they're quite a bit ahead of us in terms of breeding for fine fleece Shetlands. There's reference made to some individuals in the video, so I'm going to provide you links to their Facebook farms. They're mostly UK people. And then I'm also going to put, like I said in the video, I'm going to put links to the people, to Linda, Garrett, and Kelly's website, so you can check out their stuff. They're all doing the same thing that we're doing here on our farm. And then the other thing is the video kind of ends abruptly, and that's just because I thought it was because my internet died, but actually it was because I had only set up the Zoom session for 30 minutes because it's not that interesting why. But at any rate, it's a very abrupt ending, but I do want to make sure that Kelly, Garrett, and Linda receive a lot of recognition and praise for all the work they did. It's just amazing. So I hope you enjoy it, and we'll keep you updated with our progress, and I'll have some other conversations with other people in the next few weeks. Thanks. Hi, everybody. So I'm here today with 3 of the people that initiated, executed the importation of semen from the UK Shetland breeders, and quite a bit of effort there. And I just wanted to have a conversation with these 3. They all have leadership roles in the Fine Fleece Shetland Sheep Association, and they all have a beautiful flock of Fine Fleece Shetlands, all breeding to the traditional 1927 standard. So I will include links to their farms in the description of the video, as well as a link to the Fine Fleece Shetland Sheep Association breeders webpage. So thank you guys for all your hard work getting this done and for spending some time here with me today. The first question I had, Garrett, can you talk a little bit just about the inspiration, the initial idea that, got this whole thing going?
Yes. So back in 2010, I had found Kate Sharp on one of the Facebook pages that had these beautiful gray rams, and she was breeding for these beautiful AG grays. And so I sent her an email, which she responded to and said she would be more than happy to work with us in importing semen on these rams that she had, and was going to scrapie test them, which was the whole this whole endeavor. So she sent micron samples, photos of the rams, and unfortunately the rams did not come back RR, which we can talk about a little bit later, but that's one of the requirements for importing semen from the UK. And we continue to stay in touch, and that's how we ended up inviting Kate Sharp and Alan Hill over to judge at Jefferson back in 2011. And that was the start of this wonderful partnership that we've had with the Shetland Sheep Society in the UK. Judges are still coming over. They're still wanting to be a part of the role they have in mentoring all of us in the Fine Fleece group. So after 2011, Kelly Bartles and her husband Mike and I decided to go over to the UK and to try to find some rams to sample micron testing and to collect, potentially to export semen over. So we went up to the Shetland Islands, Shetland Wool Week. We traveled through Scotland and England, in the north and the south, looking at rams. We probably touched hundreds, if not 1,000 sheep, taking samples. So we did fiber samples, which helped to create the chart that Fine Fleece Group uses for their grades. And also we were able to find some flocks that we were potentially interested in having the rams blood tested for scrapie codon, scrapie resistance. And that happened in 2013. And I don't know off the top of my head what year the USDA closed our ability to import from the UK. So we kind of took our time, and Kelly and I spent 5 or 6 years trying to find rams that would be scrapie codon RR, or as in the UK they call it R1, which is most resistant to scrapie and the only level that is able to be imported. Okay,
just real quick for scrapie. Yep. People in the world that aren't sheep people recognize that as something else, I think, right? Isn't that like part of that whole, do they call it the mad cow disease or something like that? Is that?
Yeah, so that's
what people are familiar with, right? When they're.
Yep, so they think it's related. I don't know for sure if that's what science is telling us now, but initially they thought it was the same thing, and that's why we weren't allowed to import.
Okay.
anything other than highly resistant.
Gotcha.
So sometime between 2013 and 2020, Kelly and I spent a great deal of time with a group of breeders in the UK that would either pay themselves to have their sheep tested just out of curiosity, or Kelly and I would pay for the testing to see if those rams passed that first initial test. And I know Linda will get into some of the specific layers of testing later, but that was our initial thing. So in 2020, I think the USDA relaxed the rules to allow importation to start over or start again. And we kind of all were in disbelief because we'd been working on this at a snail pace. And then I think I was like, man, I really wish there was a way we could get these over. And Linda graciously volunteered to help out in an enormous way. And we immediately got in touch with Kate Sharp again, and Philip Cohen, and then Sue Watson in regards to trying to once again find a group of rams that would be beneficial to us here as far as pedigree or unusual markings or quality of wool or whatever we could get over here. So Sue had owned a ram by the name of Coriolanus, who was a gray cat Moget. And in the initial testing that Kelly and I and our first group of people did, he was the only ram that came back R1 or RR. So we didn't want to just collect from one ram at that time, way back when. And since the regulations had changed, he had passed away from old age. So we weren't able to use him. But Sue had told us that Kate and Philip had used him the year prior and had some offspring out of him. That would be a good start to testing some sheep. So Kate had tested probably a dozen rams and Philip at least that many, just to get us started on potentially having rams that came back RR. So out of that group, there were 5 rams that were RR, which we were hoping they would be, but many people in the UK don't scrapie test anymore because that program is kind of fizzled out. And so most flocks didn't know what their sheep statuses were at the time. And so we had, the 5th ram was a black ram that was had island genetics in it. And unfortunately, we weren't able to collect him because of policies with the main registry not allowing solid animals to come over for the fear of the extension gene coming over into the breed. And the extension gene is something that is at a totally different area and would cover up any pattern that you see. And I've been told that other breeds like Black Welsh Mountain used to come in many other patterns, but extension took over and now all they have are black sheep. So in 2010 or 2012, they passed a policy that you could have patterned offspring out of, or a solid ram out of 2 patterned parents that would be okay because that proved that they weren't extension dominant. But in 2020, when the USDA changed the rules, they came and changed the policy again and said, okay, now no solid animals, just to be safe. And it can be important for those who want to continue to diversify patterns and don't understand how extension works. There are other breeds in the US that have extension, and they've been able to maintain patterns alongside extension dominance. So I guess it's really of what belief what side of the aisle, I guess you're looking at that perspective, but the 5th ram wasn't able to be collected. So at that point, we had 4 rams that had the first level, and Linda can go through this more, but there's multiple steps that they have to go through, and at any level could disqualify them from importation, including after they've been collected. And if they don't pass final things, they would not be able to be brought over. So we were lucky to be able to collect all 4, and they all passed their tests, fortunately. But
oh my gosh.
that's kind of the gist of the background. So it's been a long time coming,
Yeah.
and the breeders in the UK have been patient and super helpful and have offered support and, you know, their opinions on the rams and things like that. So
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize how much time it took and how many dips and turns in the road you guys dealt with in order to get to where you are today. So it wasn't, so your first criteria really wasn't necessarily fleece quality or anything. It was more about the scrapey status, which I didn't realize. Oh, that had to be really tough.
Yeah. Out of like 30 sheep we initially tested, one came back RR.
So Kelly, maybe you could talk a little bit about why do this? Like, why is it important to bring in straws from the UK? Why is that an important thing to do here for us breeders in the US?
We certainly have to maintain some diversity. I mean, otherwise we kind of paint ourselves into the corner genetically. I think we tend to find a good couple lines of sheep and continue to just use those. Like with the Fine Fleece group, we concentrate a lot on of course, after we've determined that we have a well-conformed animal, and that, that it stands up to the standard in every other way. Wool quality is important to us within our group. It's very important for us to have an animal meet this performance criteria that we have set. But that is more for things like, assuring our end users, like hand spinners and their craftspersons. It's a way to assure them that what they're getting is a quality product, and then we can back that up with science, and we can back that up with a certain amount of something more than opinion. Like, this is soft. Well, I might have hands that are made of, calluses, and soft it's a relative. So you start having, certain things that pop up. It seems like, they start having, things start happening, like you start getting, like in dogs, it's bad hip, and you don't want that. I mean, for instance, in rams, it could be a retained testicle. So these are the kind of things that you want to avoid. And so you have to maintain some diversity, and you have to make sure that, you can bring in these extra lines. And in the United States, we have a very small genetic pool here. So we have to make sure that we continue to bring in some of the newer blood. And there isn't always a good fleeced animal to do that with. So we have to continue to keep searching for those animals. And fortunately, they have them in the UK, and fortunately, we were able to bring them over.
Yeah, definitely. So Linda, I guess the question I have for you is, can you just describe at a high level, maybe the 6 or 7 main steps that were involved in bringing over the semen from the UK from a mechanical side?
Well, the first step is what Garrett and Kelly have talked about, the 30 rams. And they were already screened by the breeders to have good quality fleece, have good conformation. That was the first step. And then those were tested, and we came down to the 4 rams, 5, but then the 4 that qualified. So that was the beginning. And that was the part where I kind of stepped in, because I was involved at the very beginning of all of it. So that really, during May and June of 2021 was when those rams were being evaluated, and it was really exciting to have 4 rams. We could have ended up with just 1, but to have those 4, and each was very unique in themselves, in that you had a white, you had a black cat, and you had 2 fawn mort cats. So that was really neat. We also had 3 fully horned, and then 1 that was half polled. So that gives more diversity too, in that. So that was in June 20. Once we had the 4 rams, Philip Cohen undertook the biggest job of all, which was to keep those 4 rams in isolation for 120 days. And that was July 6th is when they actually went into isolation. He
So
had
what
to
does that
put
mean?
on,
The 4 of the rams were in a pen together, or they were?
yes,
Okay.
and he would go in, he'd have to wear a suit that was basically sanitized, not to introduce anything.
Like
You know,
a
it's
clean
like being
room.
in isolation in the hospital.
Yeah.
No germs, nothing extra going on. So, and he, of course, had to feed them every day and, you know, really just take care of them. And then while they were there, they had all these different tests done. And that was where we all were kind of biting our nails, because we didn't know who was going to get eliminated, who was going to show up with one of these many diseases that both the UK and the US required to be good if we wanted to bring those rams in. So throughout that, there was a blood test drawn on day, I wrote it down, 83, day 115. And there was one even before that, when they first went into isolation. So they had just a battery of tests done. And think of 4 rams together.
I
and so
know, this is-
close together. And then Philip was trying to manage all that, and he couldn't use them for breeding.
And they have
you know,
horns, right? And one of them was a younger one too, right? And so they
2
probably
of them
weren't all
were
the same
younger.
size. Oh, okay. Okay.
2 of them were young, 2 were yearlings, and the other 2 were younger. So, but they appeared to have done very well. So when November 3rd was when the isolation actually ended, and they went to AB Europe, which is, what is it? Breeding. It's a breeding group that would collect the semen for us.
Oh, okay.
So once they were at AB Europe, they were again still in isolation at AB Europe. I think normally they would have been in isolation at AB Europe the whole time. Is that right, Garrett and Kelly?
They could either be in isolation there the whole time, or
Right.
at the farm first.
But
and
it
then-
was,
yeah.
I think, less expensive by having
Yeah.
Philip do it for us.
Yeah.
And, 3 of them were his rams. The other one belonged to Kate Sharp, and, they coordinated all of that. So then November and December was when they were collecting. And then we were again biting our nails, because how much were they going to produce? And some of them didn't produce very much at first. And AB Europe just kept on with the collection, and finally our goal was 100 of each. Well, the end result was maybe one was 88, one was, 110, but we did get 400 straws, because that's what we were basing the cost per straw on, was we had to get enough straws. So
Oh,
if
right.
you
To
didn't
cover
get
your.
semen from one of the rams, if they were for some reason infertile, or, now your cost per straw would be significantly higher for all these costs that you've gone through. Or if one of those rams had not tested good and was dropped out of the program, again, you still had all those costs that you were paying, but you didn't have as many straws to sell.
This is so great, because I had no idea. And I can imagine, like, breeders, we tend to be very high spirited people, right? We have opinions and, and I'm just wondering, like, I'm just imagining, you're probably also thinking about all these people that are counting on you, like me and many other
Right.
breeders in the group, and, kind of the pressure's on, I guess. That must have been pretty
Well,
stressful.
Well, and really, we wanted it to be a reasonable price. We didn't want it to be, so we told people originally $100 per straw, because that's what we were seeing with other companies, what it was costing. We were fortunate because of how the UK folks handled the isolation and all of that for us. We came in significantly lower than the $100 per straw. And we did things like AB Europe was going to charge us VAT tax on it, and that would have upped it a lot. And so I worked with the man over there and Philip and I both, finally got the VAT tax off, which would have added dollars. But it was very interesting.
Oh. My gosh.
And so the end result was, and then even after, oh wait, I'm not even done, because after AB Europe was finished, then they went back to Phillips for another 30 days of isolation, I believe. And they had to have all the tests again. And so if any of those tests came back positive or, not good, then the straws couldn't get shipped. So we would have had the straws, but they weren't allowed to be shipped. So that was, the end, that last isolation. And then I forgot, it took kind of a while to get it onto a ship to get it over here. Or no, they didn't ship, they flew it over, but I don't know what it took, seemed like forever to get it over here.
If we would have shipped it on our own, it would have cost quite a bit more expense.
Correct.
And so we waited for another
That's
group.
right.
I think it was a Scottish blackface that could ship with us, so we could split the cost with shipping. Otherwise, it would have been 2 or 3 times more expensive again.
So that was basically the process, and we were really pleased with the cost that it came in. And now that semen is sitting up in Maine, and as people purchase and then want to send it to wherever they're going to be using it, they work with the veterinarian up in Maine who specializes in reproduction, obviously. And then those straws will get shipped to the people, to the place that they need to go.
Yep. That's just great. Well, so I'm hoping to do a few more videos that are going to talk a little bit more about the actual rams and stuff. And our vet actually is doing ours for us, which is a blessing. I was really pleased to find out that they did it. So I'll be, talking with them a lot about other parts of the process, but I really wanted to kick this off with you three because, we owe you a lot all the time. I mean, you talk about the actual prices that you paid for stuff, but all that sweat equity and the time and the flight over when you guys went early on, for this purpose, it's really great.